for this lesson you need to start creating your training program. Now this is going to last for 6 sessions. Okay, so you need to pick a component of fitness. Now the 3 that we've advised you to use are aerobic endurance, muscular endurance, or speed. If you are picking aerobic endurance, okay, you need to do methods of training such as circuits, continuous training, or fartlek training. Now circuits are where you set out at different stations different exercises. Now for aerobic endurance you are looking at stuff such as running on the spot. You can do shuttle runs, star jumps. Don't use much body weight training because that would be muscular endurance. Now your circuit for aerobic endurance, or any session you do, okay, now if you're doing continuous it needs to be a minimum of 20 minutes. Okay, that is a bare minimum for aerobic endurance. If you're doing muscular endurance, you can use, what would you use in terms of weights? And that could be body weight, dumbbells, barbells, as well as body weight circuits. Finally, speed. The 3 methods of training you could use are acceleration sprints, interval training, and hollow sprints. Now hollow sprints is where you do a series of 4 or 5 sprints and have a period of walking or jogging to get your breath back, and then you do the series of sprints again. Interval training is where you do a high intense for about 30-40 seconds, then stop and you keep repeating that. Acceleration sprints is where you start from a rolling start and gradually increase your speed. Now once you've picked your training method, you need to create your session. Now your session would be as if you would be in a PE lesson, so it needs to be an hour long. Your warm-up, okay, you need to do a proper warm-up. So this is pulse raising exercises that get your heart pumping, followed by a series of stretches that are going to stretch the relevant muscles for your session. Now your main session is dependent on what method of training you are doing. So if it's circuits, you need to write down every single activity you're doing at each station. Now circuits have to be a minimum of 6 to 10 stations, so you might want to start at 6 and then gradually increase those as you go through your sessions. Now your main session, okay, is the bulk of your training session, so that needs to be around 30 minutes long. So what could you do for 30 minutes long, okay, to fill up your session? Now your cooldown is the opposite to a warm-up. Now it's movement and slower movement and stretches to get your heart rate down and to remove the lactic acid from your body. Your measure of intensity. Now during your exam unit you would have come across something called a Borg Scale. Now a Borg Scale is a rating from 1 to 20, so as soon as you've done your training session you would pick a number. Okay, 1 means it was really easy, 20 means you physically couldn't work any harder. Once you've put your number down, you times it by 10 and that gives you your heart rate, and you need to write your heart rate down in the measure of intensity box. So for instance, if you rated it 8 out of 20, you would write 8 times 10 equals 80 beats per minute. Your method of overload, okay, now as your sessions go on, this is how you're going to make your sessions harder. So that could be through time. So if you're at circuits and you start at 30 seconds at each station, you could increase it to 40 seconds, 50 seconds. And if you are doing sprints, you could be doing 10 sprints and then a break. So your method of overload, you could increase it to 12 sprints, then a break, then 14 sprints. And your rest and recovery, you would find your pulse rate, and then you would write what your heart rate down is at the end, and then you would mention how long it would take you to get back to your resting heart rate.